Good morning. My name is Amanda Toyos-Sitjes, and this is the analysis of Lois Lowry's The Giver and its connection to utopian concepts. Imagine a world where everyone is happy, healthy, and well-fed. There is no hunger, no poor souls or depravity present in this community. Crime is practically non-existent, and all things that would typically pose controversy, like government or societal issues, seem to have no presence in their community's affairs. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, there is one caveat. All inhabitants of this community, with the exception of two actually, have no recollection of all the past joys and sorrows of the world that came before them. Basically, their remembrance of humanity is nowhere to be traced. Such a world does fictionally exist in Lois Lowry's 1993 novel, The Giver, which describes a seemingly beautiful utopia, but is in reality a dystopian. Although a world where there is no pain and suffering does have its potential to be good, ultimately this utopian society seems to only mask its true identity as a dystopian society through its continuous suppression of individuality and lack of free will and ignorance of those of its inhabitants. Author of The Giver, Lois Lowry, was born in 1937 in Honolulu and grew up traveling abroad and living in different parts of the world due to her father's position in her army. Much of her work tends to focus on the vital significance of human connection and the value a community holds when the effects of their individuals are intertwined with one another. She quotes, "I try, through writing, to convey my passionate awareness that we live intertwined on this planet and that our future depends upon our caring more and doing more for one another." These were her intentions when writing her various novels. According to an interview done by a non-profit journalist organization, WBUR, Lowry's idea behind a world where memory of humanity is non-existent was by reflecting on her father being in a nursing home when diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Her intention was not originally to reflect and create a dystopian society, but rather to show the effect of what would happen when people lose sight of the memories that once made them who they are, as well as consider the possible benefit of what would happen if we lost the memories that inflicted us pain. Giver is written from the point of view of a young man named Jonas, who lives in a world where his family and work is chosen for him by a designated group known as the Elders. In this world, human behavior remains to be polite, common and complicated problems seem to not exist, and the world is well in order. Once Jonas turns 12, he must have his life's occupation be chosen for him. The position chosen for him allows him to work under a man named the Giver, which is where life as he knows it takes a turn to something unimaginable. He learns to see that just as the Giver, he must also hold all of the memories the world had experienced. It is with this he begins to see under the facade his perfect community has created for themselves. Despite Lowry's lack of intent to create a novel that speculates on the ideas between utopian and dystopian societies, we can't help but question whether this society is truly infallible and free of imperfections. To give a little bit of a background behind memory and its connection to creation of utopia, I would like to reference Carter F. Hansen. In his academic journal, The Utopian Function of Memory in Lois Lowry's The Giver, he mentions how the novel portrays the common theme amongst many dystopias, which is that they start off with the intentions of becoming a utopian society, but take a turn for the worse because reality seems to reject these attempts in creating an almost perfect world. He discusses how cultural amnesia is the controlling factor to creating this totalitarian control over its people. His objective is to present a counter-argument to the dystopian society Lowry projected through taking away society's memory. He believes that it is possible to use memory as a way to lead society to progression by only having one privileged person to retain memory and the rest to forget past histories and experiences. He made a comparison between the theme of memory in the novel and what the well-known Marxist philosopher Ernst Bloch ideas on anticipatory consciousness. Anticipatory consciousness, defined by Bloch, is where one utilizes moments of the past and present to create various opportunities to be seen in the future. Our memory can hold of past experiences that we may not personally undergone and can possibly give us new meaning to potential future events. Just like in The Giver, Jonas knows of these past memories in history and feels them instantaneously in the moment and is allowed to see all the future possibilities his world can obtain if taken on a new path. Ultimately, Hansen argues that having one person who has access to all the past memories and histories, as well as allow them to experience them in the present moment, can help us understand what the current world they are living in is missing. It allows us to fill in the missing blanks of society. Although Hansen does suggest a possible point as to why the giver could propose a possible tool, such as memory, to be used to create a utopian society, ultimately, Lowry's disposition disproves this through her ending creation of a dystopian society that infringes on individual liberties and rights. The question we must answer is, why is the giver a dystopian society? The novel attempts to implement reforms that may be seen as agreeable to Marxist theory, which are the philosophical works created by Karl Marx and fellow followers. It involves a world where there are no social classes or hierarchical government, in order to avoid potential uprisings from the masses and bring about a world of peace and harmonious systems of order and rule. However, at what cost is the world and the giver sacrifice to obtain the illusion? The cost is simple: suppressing human individuality, liberty, and rights. By continuously suppressing the individuality of the community, the elders hold power over the majority and maintain a so-called peace. So how was a dystopian created? Inability to choose a job of their liking, taking away one's memory without permission, conforming to uniformity, and expressions of emotions or ideas and even religion are not allowed. In the beginning of the novel, one immediately thinks about how a perfect world like this exists. However, when diving into the novel, you begin to see how the majority is being suppressed, such as, again, inability to choose one's occupation. We see this in the annual ceremony held for children at the age of 12, who will have their jobs chosen for them by the elders, rather than allowing them to choose what they think is interesting for them or what they think is good for them. There's no decision on what they can make on this. Also see in taking away the memory society without asking its inhabitants. An example, this erasing people's dreams through medication, as well as no one except the giver and Jonas having any sort of recollection of what the world was prior. So they have no one except these two people have any recollection of wars, suffering, happiness, joyous, and even the simplest moments that our society has been lucky to actually experience. Because without this, there really is no humanity. We also see through the inhibition of personal expressions of emotions are deemed to be inappropriate. They only allow words that are polite and well-mannered. So an example, Jonas saying the word love to his parents is not allowed in this place. And having strong emotions like anger is considered abnormal and even dangerous. We also see this in enforcing uniformity and not allowing anyone to have any distinctive characteristics or traits. An example, all houses must look and be decorated in the same manner amongst the community, as well as people are not allowed to have any personal beliefs or ideas as well as religions. So, in the above image, I actually created this idea of how being unique is kind of an abnormality. So, conformity is the normality, and conformity is the only way to harmony. This is an idea really believed in the giver, especially by the elders, in order to obtain this perfect illusion of a utopian society, when in reality, its inner nature is corruptive. These characteristics in the giver might remind you of the nature of a totalitarian government, one where the power and governance is centralized and represses the controls, the individual rights and liberties of its people. There is no relinquishing of some of their rights and expression based on their ability to do so, but rather they are unaware of the rights that have been taken away from them. It is unlikely to have a utopian society based on this type similar in governance, because the individuals are being blinded into accepting this way of life without being aware of all of the true facts about their world. Overall, the intention of this was to create a utopia that in reality has a dystopian nature because of the application in order to create the illusion. And I actually want to use this above image because it really describes how something can look so perfect on the outside but actually be corrupt on the inside. Developing a reality where no one had a choice to feel, think, dream, and believe in the things that they choose is not a genuine utopia. Although its intentions are pure, its action in creating and developing this world ultimately created one full of hidden cracks. By solely relying on the ignorance of the masses and eliminating the memories of the world without the permission of those individuals, turns this peaceful realm into one that is a totalitarian world, and is run by those who have knowledge of the past humanity the world had once known. So the cost in preserving a utopia demonstrates its true dystopian world. The Giver goes to show that not all utopias are genuine, and maybe, in reality, are actually dystopians in nature because of its immoral practices. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.